right, welcome back to the Real Estate Huddle. This is 2026. Happy New Year. We're excited. We've got episode 116 here, and we're going to break down some of the changes of the new rules in real estate this year in 2026 and what's going on in our current market to give you a little update of what the feel of the market is. And every year we start with the same question. It's always, is it a good year to buy? Is it a good year to sell? And why? And so we're going to answer some of those questions today, and some of the old hat strategies that we used during the pandemic and some of this low inventory market that we were in for a long time have changed. And so we're going to talk about those today. And it isn't about predictions or hype. It's more about just clarity of sound ways to go about this process and strategize efficiently. So to understand today's rules, we really have to understand where we've come from in the past.
Yeah, that's the key. So understanding, especially that pandemic market, it was if you fully understand that, this will make a little bit more sense. But just to put it into perspective, the pandemic market was a high-paced market, almost like you had to be looking every hour at what was popping up on the market. You had to be prepared for a showing every hour, or a couple an hour. It was just insane because we had such a high buyer pool and very low inventory. So when you have so many buyers and only so many houses, everybody just gets after it. And then on top of that, you had super low rates, and the prices continued to climb. And anytime a home would pop up on the market, you'd have maybe 24 to 48 hours to get an offer in. Mm-hmm. Some would last a little bit longer, but that was pretty typical. Yeah. Like a 2-day on market type deal. And what happened is it created this exponential market of price increases. And that's kind of where we're at today, is we have super high prices, and then the rates have also gone up too. So affordability is an issue, whereas back then it wasn't. You were just fighting tooth and nail. You were waiving inspections. You were trying to get any type of edge on the game. You were offering way overpriced. You had appraisal gap coverages, all this stuff that you may or may not know what that means, but you were throwing everything at the sellers to just get that house. And about, 70% of them aren't even satisfied with that purchase from back then?
Definitely.
So
we were doing everything we could to sell our buyers to them, right? Instead of get the best deal, it was all about just tell them all about how amazing our buyers are, how good looking they are, so that they can get this house above anyone else.
And one of the biggest things that I think is crucial to understand is that market was extremely emotional, extremely emotional. Whereas today it is very spreadsheet. It's very all right, does this make sense for us? Because if it doesn't, we'll just move on to the next one, or we'll wait till something else pops on, because we have that luxury. But we'll talk about that in a second. But that's kind of the big takeaway from. Did I miss anything?
No. And
it seemed like a good summary.
It's a good synopsis. And from 2013 all the way to 2019, we had a low inventory market, and then it became an extreme low inventory market during that pandemic, right? So that was just the extreme.
I had a client I was showing homes to this last weekend, and she's like, I just want to see this one real quick. And so we went, and I booked it for an hour, which that is another thing. That's crazy that we're booking for an hour again, and that was what she brought up. She's like, how can I know if I even like this house? Because it took us 10 minutes to go through it. She's like, I love this house. It's beautiful, but I only spent 10 minutes in it. I was like, it's kind of where we're at. That's what it used to be. In the pandemic, you had 15 minutes to walk through the house.
Speed dating.
Right.
With other people.
Yeah.
With other people in there, in masks, in booties, and hazmat suits.
And it's been interesting because we haven't seen a huge drop in pricing. The market hasn't broken. You could say it's kind of matured, right? And just evolved. And people that are taking kind of that strategic, mature approach are the ones that are winning right now.
Yep. So such an interesting market. That was very odd. And now we're here because of it, almost. So
I think you touched on that. Just buyer's remorse isn't the words you use. That what you meant?
Yeah, I try not to use that one, but it is. That's what it is.
You're buying under duress. It's inherently an uncomfortable process. And now 3 years go by, the dust settles. That's the worst. I don't even like this house that much.
Yeah.
That's a real bummer.
And now they want to step up, and affordability makes that an issue.
I don't even like this house, but my rate's so good, I'm going to stay here.
Yeah, they're tethered, man. They're tethered by the rate.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll talk about the new market and what the approach is there.
Yeah, so there's definitely some new rules that buyers should follow to kind of be successful in the new market. And one of them is that preparation beats timing, kind of like Landon was saying earlier, like buyers who are really knowledgeable and have spent a lot of time preparing and doing research win more often in this market because they're able to be more strategic. And then, but also on the contrary, waiting for the perfect moment usually backfires. So kind of just finding that balance. Market knowledge reduces emotional decision making, which we saw a lot during COVID as well. And then approval does not equal comfort as well. So lenders approve more based on math and buyers live more based on cash flow. And payment comfort determines long-term happiness. We're seeing a lot more people that are payment-based buyers as opposed to just the other things that we were seeing in COVID.
And lenders are still scrutinizing buyer files all day long.
Yeah.
They're still digging very far into financials, and it feels invasive, and it's still irritating. I've had
I would
several
argue that
buyers
it is pretty
tell me,
invasive. It's like, how much do you really need to know?
Yeah,
Like, how much does it take to really qualify me for this loan?
it's
Come
irritating.
on.
And you think you've given them everything, and then the week before closing, they'll ask you for 2 to 8 more things.
These underwriters are getting
So-
a little out of control,
Yeah.
in my opinion. But
PA loans these days, those are ridiculous.
yeah,
And that's why approval does not equal comfort, right?
Yeah.
It's not comfortable to go through this process, but we believe it's still worth it, and we'll talk more about
100%. Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
and then like kind of adding on to that, flexibility is a competitive advantage. Having the ability to like go with multiple options and also being able to say no and walk away too is like a big part of what can help you get the house you want. Clean terms often beat a higher price, and seller concessions matter now more than ever as well. And creative offers are often outperforming aggressive ones. So again, just that strategy. And then market literacy is power. So understanding days on market, recognizing overpriced listings, knowing when price reductions signal opportunity. Make sure you're working with an agent who's really helping you understand all of that and what that means and how that can be advantageous to you.
Definitely.
And then some things that have not changed is location still matters for most people. Buying within your means still matters, and long-term ownership still creates stability.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and for sellers, it's more like I'm going to mitigate risk here. So it may not be the highest price that's going to mitigate my risk to get to a closing table because their fear of coming back on the market is so high, right? So they just want to get the deal done. And so that's why sometimes for buyers, it's just looking the best on paper and being very approved is a strategic thing that you can do to be set to buy and then get your rate buy down, get your closing costs covered, but still net the sellers a little bit more than the other buyer, and you're going to win, in most cases. So
So I think a lot of what we're talking about is what's new, which is kind of what's new is what used to be normal. And I think there's so much data in this industry. And 3 years ago, no one cared about it. It was just emotional. We make fun of our resident geek here all the time, but he's all about data. There's a lot of data in the industry. I don't know, can anyone see? Well, this is like, shout out to one of my new buyers, Eric. This is what he has put together to help me understand what they're looking for. He is a data wonk, and this industry lends itself to a lot of data. It's good that that's back, because you talk about creative offers. There's usually creative ways to understand where our leverage is based on their pain, length on market, what they pay, their underwater more. There are a lot of these data elements that matter more now. They used to matter, and for a while they just didn't matter that much.
And the
You have
time
to look at them.
Yeah, the time. That's the big factor. Is like we have time now.
yeah,
You didn't have time to make a freaking spreadsheet back then.
No,
You
by
had
the time you opened
2
it
hours.
up, you had 3 people
Yeah.
writing offers.
Yeah. So like I had multiple out of state buyers that were buying sight unseen. We had a buyer buy like a $1.5 million house sight unseen. Like it was absolutely insane. So like that's the advantage of this market right now is that you can be analytical and you can get what you want and almost check off every box. You just have to be a little bit more patient and be willing to, wait it out for a bit.
Yep.
And then, it's you put in your offer and the offer is much more buyer advantageous than it was.
Yeah.
Yep.
Much
like,
more.
Like Gabby said, sidestep the sellers that are overpriced, right? That are not
Yeah.
realistic for where things should be in this market.
As a seller, this market is very brutal as far as telling you and being very honest with you of what your house is actually worth.
Yeah, that's a great segue. So seeing the overpriced homes, that pricing to test the market, people who are just kind of curious to see what their home's worth and what they'll get an offer on, that's painful. Like you're really going to hurt your momentum.
It's going to be a real downer.
I can only assume that if they think it's worth something else and the market's saying something, they're just going to be completely disappointed. So knowing that data up front and getting someone who's trusted in there to be able to tell you that hard information up front, because it's just going to hurt. Even the longer you go on hoping for that number, it's going to be more depressing.
Yeah.
So the first 2 weeks on the market for sellers is the most important 2 weeks, because that is when you are the newest model year and that's when you're fresh and that's when you're at the top of the queue. After that, it's going to start filtering down. So you're going to have to do things to keep yourself relevant. Online buyers, you're able to compare a lot of things now with the home floor plans. They can overlay those things, build spreadsheets, right? Oh, I want bedrooms that are 12 by 12, not 10 by 10, right? They can figure that out before they even go see the home. So the biggest thing that I'm seeing, especially going through homes right now, condition and presentation matter. That it was not really the case, in the pandemic times. If the house just had walls and a roof, it was good, right? Now, you see, oh, hey, they didn't finish the trim, or they spot painted the wall and there's a different sheen.
Yeah.
Like, we're in the house long enough to be able to notice those types of
Landon,
things.
what does your dad call it? Winning the beauty.
Yes, winning the beauty contest.
Winning the beauty
Yeah,
contest.
to win the beauty
Yeah.
contest.
It does.
So you have to try. So if you're a dog lover, and awesome for you to have a lot of dogs, but showing a home with a lot of dogs running around, it's a challenge. So you have to plan a strategy for it. So being able to do that. Deferred maintenance. I have seen, there's some homes that we don't even bother to walk in when you look at it and the siding's all rotted, and that's not a huge fix, but it just shows that, okay, this is the outside, what's behind the walls. It just creates, buyers are like, I'm a little uncertain now. So presentation matters.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
the move-in ready homes, they're still outperforming the average market. They're the ones that are holding, the quick sales, multiple offers in some cases. You're seeing that. So professional photos, staging, sellers really have to try a lot more. And that's one thing that we kind of just do standard with them, but being able to capture that, because it matters. You've had listings that you took a listing away from a previous agent that, what was it, 4 showings in 3 months or something like that? And, and 3 and 5, it was very low showings and a lot of months on market. And minor changes, great photos, and all of a sudden, hey, here we are.
I feel like the bar has shifted again. Like, you used to not have to do much. We still have the math associated with when you stage and what you're going to turn. Mm-hmm. Now you walk in, and when you see that the effort hasn't been made by the selling agent, I don't know what you guys say, but I say something to myself internally, and it's hard for me to sell that house as well to my clients.
Yeah, for sure.
The bar is just going.
You know what's funny though? Like, buyers still aren't coming in with like super low ball offers, right? It's like, it's interesting. That doesn't happen at a higher volume right now. Like, buyers are still just waiting for that price to come down, and sellers are still wondering, why don't they make an offer? And it's like there's this tug of war thing where buyers, maybe you should write a lower offer, and sellers, maybe you should just come down a little bit so that it can be more reasonable on price. But that's still happening.
That's what's been a frustrating thing for me this past year is I've had a few clients who are like, well, like you said, we're seeing a lot of price drops, like 2 price drops on like average before anything happens. So why not just wait? I was like, you can. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, or we can put in a lower offer. Like, oh no, we'll just wait. I was like, okay, well, just don't be surprised if like tomorrow they get an offer on it. And almost every freaking time I get a call from the agent, hey, just want to let you know we got an offer. So if you're looking to, or whatever, you get that message from showing time, right? And it's so frustrating. So yeah, put in the low offer. Just
I think
do
it's
it.
culture sometimes. So I think like
is.
our grandparents went to this gas
Yeah.
station and they bartered for a Snicker bar. And they were like, I'll give you 5 cents for it. How about that? You know, and that's unheard of. You can't do that on Amazon. You know, you can't do it anywhere. It's the price that's listed is the price that it is. That's retail.
I think we've talked on another podcast about how we as listing agents have come to realize our expectations on growth. And we've had to learn over the last 6 months, and I think some have done it better. I thought we've done pretty good. But we just went under contract in a house this weekend where, in looking at the comps, what did we say? They're like,
It's actually pretty good.
they
It's well
priced pretty
priced.
damn well.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're all getting a little better on that, and I think that's, we'll talk about the next section.
Yeah.
This new normal, which is the old normal, it's really not so bad. It's logical.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think unfortunately for sellers, you just have to come to the reality that your house is not worth as much as you think almost
Yes.
every time.
Yeah.
And you got to listen to your agent. If your agent's telling you one thing, they're probably right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
your agent doing that, but also feedback. And if you are getting lowball offers and you're saying no to them, there's a reason why they're coming in.
You're
that
the
low.
problem.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I've seen, marketing. Like, take your time and market it properly, because just putting it on the MLS was sufficient. 4 years ago, that's all it took, right? You just held an open house on the weekend and just gave someone a napkin and a cookie as they walked through the home, right? Now you really have to try. You got to
Takes a
stage.
lot of
You have
effort.
to
Follow up properly.
Yep. And an agent who's active doing those follow-ups. So, but
Definitely.
what has not really changed, the well-priced homes still sell. If you do the preparation work ahead of time, it still pays off.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
I mean, I met with some sellers in October, and we listed their home in May. And within, I think it was less than 2 weeks, we had 3 offers on the home. And that was a very slower time, if you will. So for that to happen, they put in the legwork up front over time, and they planned it out. They knew they were going to do it. So, and it showed, it was staged properly, and all the details were there. And that creates buyer reassurance when there's subtle details that it's above and beyond. So
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is buyers are having to make some adjustments and tweak things. Sellers are having to make some adjustments and tweak things. So what's actually happening with the market, with
What's
the
it
data
really doing?
itself? Yeah.
Yeah, so that's, we teed this up a bit. So everyone's adapting. I think part of what we're positing is that we're kind of moving back to the middle, much more balanced. So what's really happening? So we get a lot of headlines, and I don't think it's our belief that they're all right. Like this normal, it's not a bad thing, right? It's normal again. These are normal rates. We had some really crazy low rates, but that was the outlier. Things taking a little longer, looking at those days on market, things taking a little slower. It's not a bad thing. The system isn't broken. That's how it's designed. Negotiation, like having to negotiation creative offers, that's not anything broken. That's what we get paid to do, and that's how you try to differentiate yourself.
It is kind of funny, right? Because everyone's tone is like, oh, the market's terrible. It's such a tough market. And average days, if you look at the whole year in this market, are like 44.
Yeah, it's not bad at all.
That's still pretty good.
So-
like 70's balanced. So that's still pretty solid.
Yeah, so we talk a lot about inventories, right? So once upon a time, very little inventory, lots of buyers,
Yep.
crazy market. Good if you're the seller. Not always good if you're the selling agent back then, certainly bad on the buyer side. Now we're much more balanced. That's good. So our levels are, we're having a dip now just because of seasonality, but where we ended, mid-December, that's a balanced market.
Yep.
Days on market we talked about, it's not a bad thing. Price discovery has returned. There's a lot more pressure. Doing, analysis of comps in the area, much more back to that science way to figure out what it's worth. This negotiation thing feels unique, but it's really not at all. Anyway, so I think what we're framing is this is a better thing longer term, right? So people are happier with the houses they buy. There's a lot more thought went into it, negotiation to get the things that matter at the right price. So you're making smarter decisions. Sellers are acting better. We talked about what they have to do. Well, that's what they should have been doing all along. They didn't have to as much for a while. Now they do. And then buyer's remorse. We're just going to see a lot less of that.
Yeah.
Get in the right house at the right price. You're going to be happy about it.
Yeah.
Stay there longer.
Definitely. And so how do you win in this market? I think if you're a buyer, you win by doing your homework up front, really learning a lot, through the process, whether it's on from experts on YouTube, whether it's you're listening to this right now, this podcast, right? You're winning. If you're doing that, you're learning about how this process works. And I think that's the key, is understanding the right strategies. And then knowing the areas, knowing locations, neighborhoods, all of that stuff is really important, so you get in the right location that works for you. And then know your comfort zone. That just means, you should know what the payment looks like at this price for this home. And if you haven't had enough conversations with a lender or had enough visits with a mortgage calculator, you should revisit that and understand that very well, so that you don't get this process started and then realize, oh, we can't even afford this house. This sucks. We're going to be house poor.
That's a comma?
That's not what we want for you. And so that's the key, is get the price point that you're comfortable with, where you're going to actually be able to live your life and enjoy your life. And then tracking value instead of hype. So there's hype is all the news articles that Chad mentioned, all the stuff that's coming out that may or may not be true. A lot of times they're not true. They're overhyped. And it's crazy. Just like in the sports scene, Broncos lose one game and it's they're terrible. Bo Nix can't even play.
That's their
He's an
job.
awful
Their job
quarterback.
is to create emotion out of their articles.
They got
And
a
they
sensation.
definitely
Housing
do it
market
really
is the
well.
same thing.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as sports, right?
Because just the average normal statistics doesn't get clicks.
Heaven forbid we just state the facts, because that's too boring.
yeah. Yep. So
We will do that for you.
Yep, that's about it. I want boring in the media. I'd love boring right now.
right. So it's just understanding that the data, right, and real value is understood through talking to an expert about what the comps have sold for, who can really make adjustments for you based on those comps. That's going to tell you more than anything else, headlines or anything that you get on the news. And then being 100% ready means that you've met with a lender. You've got your pre-approval set. You're all comfortable with the values and what payments look like at those values, and you're confident. You're ready to go because you've been empowered by the knowledge, right, of getting ready. And then if you're a seller, the way that you win as far as that goes is make sure that you're leading with data, with how you're pricing your home. If you price your home based on your feeling or your nostalgia, you're going to be way overpriced, and you're going to be setting yourself up for a road of pain. And then prepare your house before listing, so you win the beauty contest. It's so emotional, this buyer process. So we've got to remember that it's underrated. And then respond quickly to feedback. You got to have an agent that's being proactive, that's actually working this for you and not just setting it, forgetting it. And then adjusting early with price adjustments, not emotionally. So what that means is you're not just being stubborn and sitting there acquiring days on market. You're actually adjusting at a cadence that makes sense in the market, that's going to get you a contract faster, because the longer you stay on the market, the less you're going to get for your house, and the more everybody's going to wonder what's wrong with that house. It has to be structural movement. It has to be water issues. It has to be that it's way overpriced. They just jump to conclusions, right? So making sure that you're adjusting and getting that house set right.
How many times I get that, this has been on the market for 100 days. What's wrong with it? Mm-hmm. Over and over again.
Yeah, totally. And those
It's
who
a valid question, but most of the time it's
self-created most of the time.
it's
Roll
really
up the
nothing.
sleeves. Let's go.
Because of all those things we just mentioned.
Yeah.
Sellers create that situation for
Yeah.
themselves, and
Yeah.
so we have to prepare and be proactive there. And so, what does this all mean for you personally? I think that's what you have to look at, and we're willing to take a deep dive to your personal situation. We have a lot of questions we like to ask you in an initial consultation meeting to understand you better, and you get a feel for what you're really trying to accomplish here, and what type of property you either want to buy or sell, and what's important to you through that process, so that we can best help you prepare and get ready for that. So don't go it alone. Don't try to do all this, and figure it all out. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. There's great fundamentals that we can help you with along the way.
Yeah, you're not going to get from some of these online IDX feeds. You're not going to get what's the average close price to list price ratio for this zip code. Mm-hmm. Like, we can drill down to those details if you know specifically where you want to be, or we can cast a wider net. But that's going to really paint that picture of, hey, if you're listing, you're probably going to get this amount for, if we list it properly. If you're going to buy and you want to lowball an offer, hey, here's reality. Let's see what we can do with it. So
Yep. Absolutely.
it's strategic.
Yep. And the people that are going to win are the ones that evolve and adapt to the market, get educated, and remember the timeless principles that never go away, that never change in the process of buying and selling real estate. So if you've had any thoughts, even the slightest thought of buying or selling this year, we'd love for you to reach out. Our contact info is here, and give us a call. We'll help you in the new year to make a great decision on real estate so that it can set you up for success.